because we have arrived at an incredibly special treat this evening. By way of background, the United States Army currently lists about 450,000 active duty soldiers. In 2020, it was closer to 500,000. There's a statutory limit. I had to do a ton of research on this because our keynotes here have an incredible background, and as I dug deeper and deeper and deeper, I had to learn more about this. There's a statutory limit on the number of four-star generals at any given time. That number is 7. Coincidence? Magic? In the entire history of the United States Army, just 248 of the men and women who've served this nation have ever risen to the rank of a four-star general. Some of those names include Ulysses S. Grant, Douglas MacArthur, George Patton, Dwight Eisenhower. Household names. With us tonight is the 226th in the history of the United States Army, Brother Paul E. Funk II. I've had the incredible privilege of getting to know Brother Funk over the last 12 months, and let me tell you, he is an absolute treasure of a human being, and he is a blessing to Sigma Chi. It has been an absolute honor to interact with him, and I am grateful he's accepted our invitation to be here tonight. Brother Paul E. Funk II. You know, when I reached out to Brother Funk to ask him to be our keynote, he said to me, "You really want my dad?" And I said, "Well, how about both?" And what I would tell you is there would be no 4-star General Funk if there wasn't 3-star General Paul Funk. Paul E. Funk I is one of those who rose to the rank of a 3-star Lieutenant General. And there can only be about 40 of those at any one time in active duty in the U.S. Army. Is there anything more? Oh, yes. Brother Paul E. Funk I is widely regarded as one of the most influential figures in the modern history of armored warfare. He is widely respected for his leadership, innovation in training and doctrine, and his contributions to the modernization of armored warfare. This reputation earned him the designation of a legend of armor, joining other legends such as Creighton W. Abrams, for whom the Abrams tank is named after, and George S. Patton, and very few others. Look, the rest of their bios are in their program booklet, and let me tell you, it was an incredible challenge for our staff just to get it down to the 2 pages that they occupy in our booklets. Because the incredible accomplishments of these men is quite honestly breathtaking. What you are about to be part of may not have ever happened before, nor may it ever happen again. In the history of our fraternity, in the history of any fraternity, and maybe not even in the world, I don't know. A father-son combination, having both held the same post in commanding Fort Hood and 3 Corps, and both being members of the same chapter of the same fraternity, and having both rightfully been recognized with our significant SIG Award. For this special occasion, please welcome to the stage now, Brother Paul E. Funk I.
Thank you.
For the purpose of tonight, we've agreed to facilitate sort of a fireside chat conversation where we all get to learn from the incredible wisdom of these 2 brilliant men. But before we get into any questions and answers, I'm just going to offer each of them an opportunity to offer some opening remarks. And we'll start with Brother Paul Funk II.
So, my name is Funk, and for 42 years, I got the pleasure and privilege to wear the jersey of the greatest team ever assembled, the United States Army.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you tonight, I'm so incredibly proud to be a Beta Rho Sig from Montana State University, a significant Sig, a life loyal Sig, and more importantly, a soldier who has served and been a Sigma Chi. And I get to share this opportunity with my father. And by the way, the legend of armor thing is really true. So what I'd like to do right now, if you are currently serving on active duty in any of our services, or you are a veteran, please stand. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what selfless service looks like. And if you are a Vietnam veteran, let me say welcome home.
Yeah.
And thank you for your service. So, as I said, this is an incredible time for me, but it is an incredible time for our fraternity, 170 years. I look forward to answering the questions, but more importantly, I want you to understand that right now, somewhere in the world, there is a young man or a young woman standing in a cold and lonely place, post for you. As with our fraternity, those young men and women serve selflessly and lead the world. And let me tell you one other thing. If you want to take on the United States military, somebody else will be raising your sons and daughters. Thank you. I look forward to answering your questions.
First of all, soldiering is an affair of the heart. Being a Sigma Chi is an affair of the heart. And if ever I thought that before I joined Montana State University from the little town of Roundup, Montana, seemingly 100 years ago, I know that it's true today. To have my own son here with accolades that are definitely deserved, knowing how proud his mother and I are. And by the way, my favorite general ever, General Dick Cavazos, said that that's a great soldier, that kid. And then he paused and looked at me and said, he'd take that for his mother, you know. So he had it right. Look, the fact is that our Army, our military, but I'll speak to the Army because it's still where my heart is. I can't get away from it. I can't stop. Sometimes I wonder why not. But the fact is that Army represents you. Very small proportion, Paul will say this later on, probably, of our population even serve now or are eligible to serve. But those of you that have served know. It wasn't perfect. What you did, what you had to do, your leaders, none of it was perfect. But you served. You gave back to the country. That's what these kids are doing these days, and there's some of them out there. And they do it for one another on the battlefield and for you and our families. So this is going to be fun, I think. We won't wear you out, I promise. If you start getting real tired of us, just walk out. We'll get the hint. Michael's got a hook over there, and he's prepared to use it if we have to. But look, let me just close my brief remarks by saying what an honor for us to be here, and what an honor to have served the country. And we're still doing that in other ways, just as you all are. And what a great record of that tonight, with all the money contributed for research cancer. Absolutely a great thing, and we're proud to follow it. Thanks.
All right, let's get to the question and answer part of our evening. We have about 200 of our undergraduate brothers here in attendance. And so we'll start with both of you. Maybe you'd each share a defining memory from your undergraduate experience as a Sigma Chi.
So when I got to Montana State, I wasn't originally, I'm a son of the Army because my parents were in, so I didn't know a soul. But I had grown up and listened to the sweetheart of Sigma Chi. And so, as it turns out, a couple of brothers, I found them, and they found me. And the rest is history. I never went through Rush. I was a 7-time legacy. I had found my tribe. And that forever has been the case. I still, with the guys that actually I was the Magister, and one of my pledges is in this room. His name's Kurt Byler. Where are you, Kurt? Are you in here somewhere? Curtis, where are you?
I saw him.
There he is, right over there. That is an amazing tribute to me, but more importantly to us, because we found our tribe. That'll be important. That's important for the nation, reconnecting to something bigger than yourself.
Yep.
That's where it started for me, and that's where I knew I was home.
The fact is that the fraternity gave Paul, similar to what I felt, a place to call home. And the brotherhood was something that's different for everybody, but it's the same. Still powerful. Most of us are dead, frankly. And but I still have some of the SIGs that they came all the way down when we brought Paul aboard as a significant SIG. It was during COVID. We had a small ceremony at our ranch in Texas. They came, some of the guys that had been with me over those years. As I thought about the values that our Army does, by the way, look them up. Look at those values and compare the ones that we espouse in Sigma Chi. They're a lot the same. That's the sort of thing that our young people are being exposed to. Not all of us live up to them, but that doesn't mean you can quit. The fact is, the mission may never be complete, but neither may we pass it by. That's the sort of feeling that I have for the Brothers of Sigma Chi and for the powerful things that it's done, not just for me, but for our country. That's enough.
All right. We'll do one more for both of you, and then we'll dive into some different questions for each of you. Were there any mentors or brothers in Sigma Chi who significantly shaped your values or direction in life?
So for me, it was our council. And if you're a council in this room or have been, please stand up.
Great guys.
You think you're not making an impact or you're not changing a life, just remember there's somebody below you who's looking up to you for guidance, direction, and purpose. He actually took an interest in me, and he still does today. I still talk to him at least once a week. I've talked to him now over 40-some years. And that is the essence of what this brotherhood means. And we share that bond together. And if I called him tomorrow, Dad said this earlier today, if I called him tomorrow and said I'm in trouble, he would be there that day. Right. That's what it means.
You want me to comment on that?
Yeah, how about mentors for you?
Well, it's going to be almost like an echo because Paul and I feel the same way about this. Ed Gossick was the counsel when I was there. Really helped me. He doesn't even know he did, but he did. Real proud of him. Great guy. I haven't heard from him for a while. I'm worried about him. It's what happens when you get a little older, folks. Some people in here know that. I'll tell you of one instance from a soldier that I served with. Back in 1973, I was a troop commander of Air Cavalry Troop in Korea, of all places. After I'd been in graduate school for about 3 years, it was the 4th company or troop I'd commanded. A young man's father died. Here he is, clear over there in Korea. The Army's not going to send him home. He can't afford to go home. And I had to break the news to him that his dad died. His dad had a huge influence in his life. He wept. I confess I wept. Big, tough troop commander. That young man is no longer young. He still contacts me. He still gives me heart and hope for our people. He was never a college graduate, did very well with a little company called Exxon. But the point I want to make is that here is somebody, you don't know the influence you're going to have. Paul doesn't with the hundreds of thousands of troops that he has led. And I had tens of thousands, well, hundreds of thousands too. You never know. And you don't know the impact maybe until years later. You've got to kind of try to do the right thing is what I'm really getting to. And you got to lead people as if they're your sons and daughters, because that's how I felt about my kids. Now, I had to commit them to battle in Vietnam, in a terrible war, and in Desert Storm, where it was a much better war, if you will. There is no such thing as a good war. But every time, my concern was always, have we prepared them the best? Have we led them the best? Have we done what we're supposed to do? Maybe more about that later if you're interested.
Yeah.
But that's, well.
And if you follow that logic, has the white cross of Sigma Chi gained new luster from my life?
Damn right.
That's
Damn
what
right.
it means.
Yeah. And you don't think of that every day. Nobody does. And usually you think about that sort of thing after you've done it or haven't done it, or after you've made a mistake or a great decision. And higher up in an organization, like some of the leaders around here with large organizations, the higher up you go, well, General Creighton Abrams used to say, the higher up the flagpole you go, the more your fanny shows. So, I mean, that's a very true statement, you know.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, you could be up there pretty high, but wow, if your fanny shows, you're in kind of bad trouble. But the point I want to make here is you don't know, but you got to do. It's got to be based on something. The mission, of course, always, but there's got to be some other element that causes you to make that decision and lead in the way you lead. And so I think, I mean, if nothing else, I think Paul and I. Well, I know there are lots of other things we feel strongly about, but that's something that's at the heart of the lives that we've led. You can regret that or you can embrace it, but you're there, you're responsible. Read The Killer Angels, and it'll talk about the responsibility of leaders for their soldiers. Terrific book about that. Anyhow, that's enough of that.
Well, in Sigma Chi, we teach transformational leadership, which is about the practice of learning leadership for ourselves, surrounding ourselves with others like-minded, taking action for the greater good.
You bet.
One of the domains of the leadership that we teach is servant leadership. And so, Brother Funk, first, I'd like for you to maybe talk a little bit about servant leadership and how you've seen that model play out in your own life.
Well, actually, I've heard Paul talk about this quite a lot in a number of circumstances, and he is very eloquent, and I want him to talk about it too, but I'll just tell you this. I believe this, since the first time I heard it, I was, I think, a lieutenant colonel or something like that, 19, 20 years in the service, leading our kids, some in combat. And some guy spoke up and said, and he was quoting somebody else, the leader is never the equal of the led. Boy, I believe that. It hit me hard then, it still hits me. I never felt equal to all of those that I led, even when I had 162,000 soldiers in the 3rd Corps. I always felt like there was more I could do. I always felt like I wasn't doing enough. That doesn't mean you're easy. That doesn't mean you don't train their butts off. But it means that you're always thinking about them and how to make them better. And how to help, if you can, their families. And how to make sure that whatever meager resources the Army gives to you to take care of families, that that's properly done. So yeah, being the servant leader is one who, in my opinion, always looks down first. Then you can look up. Easy to look up. Easy. It's not so easy for a lot of people to look down and think about your folks first.
So the Army, like this fraternity, is a people business.
Amen.
And what I'll tell you from that is that it is so important that you take care of your people, that they recognize the fact that you care about them. If you can lead with empathy, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run,
yep.
Or if you can manage to remember that America's and Canada most precious treasure is its sons and daughters, and it's your job to lead them, you must lead them well. You must leave your jersey, the jersey of the greatest team ever assembled, you must leave that in a better place every day. There is no other excuse, there is no other course of action. That, in fact, is your calling and your mission.
For Brother Funk II, when you assumed the role of 3rd Corps Fort Hood commander, you and your father became the first father and son duo to hold that same post in the history of the U.S. Army. In the process, you joined exclusive ranks of military legends to have achieved that same success in other posts, such as Abrams and Patton. It's an incredible testament to legacy, family, fraternity. Would you talk about what it felt like and what it meant to you to have achieved that together with your father?
Yeah, so as if there's not a lot of pressure when your dad is one of the legends of armor.
Not just because I'm old.
That's not true. There's only 12 of them in the world. They go back to Hans Guderian. They go across international boundaries. And so when that is the case, and by the way, you're now in charge of the place where you were born.
Right.
I was born at Fort Hood, Texas. That's where the 3rd Corps headquarters is. And my dad is the 49th commander of the 3rd Corps, and I was the 60th. If that's not a little pressure, the guy that actually was in charge of the ceremony was the other family that had commanded the same corps, and that was General Abrams, the youngest son of Creighton Abrams.
Yep.
Both families represented in the history of the U.S. Army 250 years this year. It only happened one time. Both families represented in the ceremony where I took over. That was a pretty big deal. And that's got a little bit of pressure to it. So, but having been a soldier for a day or two and had thousands of people tell me what a great guy my dad was, it didn't really matter because I knew they were going to say that anyway. And so I was used to it by then.
Yeah, but he handled it so well. I mean, you know that history has seen a lot of different professions where fathers and sons and all kinds of problems arose and everything else. Listen, he did better. He did better. And as General Cavazos said, he takes after his mother. I mean, no, and that's really true. I mean, my wife is a saint, and she would hate it if she heard me say that, but it's true. All those times I was gone, and she had our 3 kids, she was raising them, doing it, and then I came back and we settled in again. One story I'll tell you about this lady. She's a great soldier's wife. And the reason I say this is we're getting ready to go to what became Desert Storm. Commanded 3rd Armored Division, the most powerful armored division ever assembled, ever. And I was privileged to command it at the time in Germany, headquarters in Frankfurt. And so I came home for lunch. We were all preparing to go. I lived right across the square and could walk home for lunch and trying to be a kind of a normal family. And I said to Danny, my wife said, the Commander-in-Chief, the Sink of USUR, United States Army Europe, called me today and he said, we got to leave 1 battalion back. And he's leaving the 2nd Battalion, 32nd Armor back, 232 Armor, up north. So she doesn't know who's in what unit, you know. She's concentrating on her kids and grandkids. And I said, you know, that's Paul's battalion. He's in that, but she didn't even take a breath. She just looked at me. She's this tall. She looked at me and she said, you are not leaving that boy behind. You are not taking everybody else's son and father and husband to war and leaving your son behind. Yes, ma'am. And so, I mean, it's a great story. Yeah, absolutely. It's a great Army story. It's a great mother's story. And I was so proud of her and of him. But I mean, that's the sort of lady. She knew couldn't do that. And that's the sort of thing that happens to you when you join this outfit called the U.S. Army. Fueled by, her father was a Sigma Chi, by the way, both her brothers were Sigma Chi's. I mean, there were a lot of legacies out there, all in Beta Rho chapter, by the way, up there in Bozeman, Montana. I had a brother and a cousin who were SIGs. I mean, I was the first in our family, but so all of that was informed and influenced by Sigma Chi. And it is a family thing. Soldier, as General Abrams used to say, is an affair of the heart. It's also a family affair in most cases. We used to say we recruit into single soldiers, we re-enlist families. 67% or more of the Army is married. A lot of them, husband and wife, are soldiers now. Don't know how many of you know that. 13% of the 3rd Armored Division that marched into Iraq were women. And they did magnificently. And they're doing even better today. Yeah, no, it's the truth. It's a great. So for all the sweethearts and all the moms.
Yeah. If you're a military spouse, present or former, please stand up.
Yeah. How about anybody here married when their soldier was in? There we
Yeah.
go. All right.
So I got to throw this in there because this is the kind of apropos for this moment. But by the way, so I was the commander in Iraq and Syria in 17 and 18. And by the way, that force was led by 2 Sigma Chi's, me and Brother Jamie Gerard, who was commander of the Special Operations Forces when we defeated ISIS in Iraq and took back Raqqa.
And nobody's ever heard from ISIS in Iraq again.
Yeah. But I got to tell you, it was a woman general that took back Raqqa from ISIS. So to all the ladies, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a very true. Her name was General Naruz. She's probably 4'8". but she led with such skill, determination, and tenacity. I would tell you she was an incredible representation of what it meant to be a soldier. She was phenomenal. She's still fighting, by the way. ISIS is still in Syria.
Yeah.
And they are still conducting atrocities, but she's making them pay.
That's awesome. All right, let's talk about real quick. We got a few minutes left, but I have a couple of questions I have to get to.
All right.
For Brother Funk II, let's talk about Funk's fundamentals.
Yeah.
40 lessons and doctrines you developed over your 40-year career. And obviously many of those are specific to the Army, but I was taken by how many of them have crossover to what we teach in Sigma Chi.
Yep.
One of those that really stuck out to me was, you've already said it tonight, leave the jersey in a better place than you found it.
Yeah.
With one of the purposes of what we do here at Grand Chapter is to promote the transition of leadership from one generation to the next. What advice do you have to offer to the many men here in the audience who've just assumed or reassumed the mantle of leadership for our great fraternity?
Leadership's about giving back. Leadership is about building a vision and then building the objectives to lead to that vision. You heard the challenge to raise the money. It's also about building men of character. It's also about leading as a fraternity in times of tragedy and the time of need. So make sure that you understand that leadership is a contact sport. It can't be delegated. It can't be given away.
Yep.
It has to be dealt with every day. And you can lead through personal example. You can lead through orders, and you can do a bunch of things. But the best thing about it is, if you lead from your heart, you can do no wrong.
Yep.
Brother Funk I, I have a special question for you.
Sure.
I don't know if you know this. Last November, you celebrated 65 years as a Sigma Chi.
Yes.
It's amazing.
That's a long time.
With all of your life experience and looking into the future, what is one hope you have for our great fraternity as we look to the next 65 years?
In 5 years?
65 more.
65. Look, the one thing that I think that is most important for every leader is you have to demonstrate that you care. When I got the privilege of being in the council, I was a Magister and then the council there at Beta Rho. I mean, I'm sure I wasn't thinking lofty thoughts then. I was thinking about how can I do what's best for all of us on a day-by-day basis. And it didn't require a lot of pressure because I had great people to work with. In the Army, that continued to expand. Whatever it is, first of all, you got to think about your people. The mission always comes first. The people are right there with it. And that's true in business or anywhere else as far as I'm concerned. You also have to have the kind of selflessness that says, I'm willing to share that with others. I'm willing to share the credit. I believe that the leader is never the equal to the led. It is in all those years I spent privileged to lead at every level in our Army to be a commander. It just got more important to me to have the folks that worked for me, that I was leading, respect me and think that I was always thinking about them, because I did. And their families. And their families. And I know in business, the families aren't necessarily involved, except in the great companies. And they're important to them, too. So I guess that's what I'd say to answer that as best I can.
Wonderful. Well, as we wrap tonight, I would like to give each of you just a few moments to close us out with some open-ended commentary. Enough from me. What's the most important lesson you would like to leave our participants with tonight? Each of you just a few moments to close us out with some open-ended commentary. Enough from me. What's the most important lesson you would like to leave our participants with tonight?
One of my great mentors was the 18th chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. His name was Marty Dempsey. His name is Marty Dempsey. And he used to have a box on his desk when he was the chairman, and on that box, and in that box on a perfectly printed, hand-printed, were the names of all the soldiers he lost in OIF 1. On the top of that box was a brass plaque with the words, "Make it matter." Ladies and gentlemen, that's what this fraternity does. It makes it matter. We fight cancer. We fight cancer because we know we're going to improve the human condition. So as I think about these things, I will tell you that this nation, our nation, and my apologies to the international folks in the room, but this country believes in itself. The power of our nation is such that we will move heaven and earth to save one life. We are the only country in the world that can take all the equipment of a heavy brigade combat team, some 80-some tanks, thousands of vehicles, thousands of people, put it anywhere on the world in 2 weeks and change the condition of a nation. We're the only people out there that are your best friend if you're with us and your worst enemy if you're not. Ladies and gentlemen, the young men and women that serve our nation in the United States military are the best of us. This fraternity is filled with veterans and those that serve today. I am incredibly honored to say, my name is Funk. I'm a Beta Rho Sig from Montana State University, and I, for 42 years, got to wear the jersey of the greatest team ever assembled, the United States Army. Thank you.
Well said. I don't think I could say that as well, so I won't repeat it. What I will do is leave you with two thoughts. And this has to do with all of us, and it has to do with whatever we do in life, in my opinion, certainly in our fraternity, and certainly in the United States Army. Firstly, these will invoke one of the movies of one of the brothers of the past, a guy named John Wayne. Yeah, all right. I knew we'd have a few people that remembered. I know a lot of the kids don't anymore. My grandkids don't. But look, in the great movie, I think it was, could be wrong, but it was She Wore a Yellow Ribbon. And here's the scene. Troop Commander Captain Brittles, Nelson Brittles, is getting ready to leave the Army. And he's got a troop out in probably in Arizona, maybe in Texas, but on the western frontier. And they've been fighting some pretty tough foes, but he's leaving. So he goes out for the last day to change command. And he gets ready to go to turn it over to the new commander. And the first sergeant's called all the troops together, all mounted, horseback. And he gets ready to turn it over, and somebody says, "Sir, the troopers have something for you." So he stops and pauses. Okay. They bring one of the sergeants forward, and he said, "Sir, the men have got they called it a sentiment for you." And he pulls it out and hands it to him. And so he unwraps it, but he can't read it, so he has to pull his glasses out. It's quite an emotional moment. Here's this old guy leaving the Army. And he puts on his glasses and he opens it and he reads it. And he pauses like this. And he reads the sentiment. lest we forget. Now hold that thought for what you've done in your lives and all the folks who've influenced it. And that's a great, great way to say, we're proud of you. And he said, I'm proud of you guys, but I still got to leave, lest we forget. The first reunion we have of the guys from the A Troop, 1st and 9th, I commanded that troop in Vietnam, air cavalry troop, lots of casualties, way too many, in a terrible war. I gave that little talk. The next time we met, the guys gave me a silver pocket watch, just like they'd given Captain Brittles, and on the back of it, it said, lest we forget. I'll never, ever forget that. Don't you forget it when you're out there with your people. And the final thing is, from the finest leader of my time in the Army, combat leader, General Dick Cavazos, when asked what characteristic he wanted in Paul Funk II, Paul Funk I, any of his leaders, what is it? He said, tenacity. I don't want any leader working for me who will quit. So for gosh sakes, on this great mission for raising money for the Huntsman Foundation, for all the other missions of Sigma Chi, don't ever quit. That's it. Thanks. Thanks to you guys. Thanks to everybody. Thank you.
I will.
God bless. This guy.
Now, I'm going to ask you to stick with us just for a minute. Just stay right here because we have two more special surprises. I'm going to ask our 73rd Grand Consul Bob Wilson and our 74th Grand Consul Ryan Temby to join me up on stage here. Now, we learned that Brother Funk II had a very small, significant SIG ceremony because it was during the pandemic. Yep. And so when we were preparing for Grand Chapter, we found all your significant SIG stuff. And so tonight, I'd like to ask 73rd Grand Consul to formally present the significant SIG medallion and certificate to you, Brother Funk.
Thanks for joining us.
Oh, good. Well done. Terrific.
That's fantastic.
That's great.
This is just a little bit bigger of a gathering than the last
What a
one.
magnificent job you've done leading this fraternity.
Now, we're not done yet because Brother Hester came upon a discovery. Sigma Chi has what's called a military service recognition pin that we provide to our brothers who've served honorably or have been honorably discharged from service in the United States Army, and it is generously funded again by Brother Keith Kroc, our Grand Consul, past Grand Consul. And we saw that your son is wearing a military service recognition pin, but it seems a glaring oversight that we may have missed you. And so we've asked Brother Temby, and Brother Kelly Nichols has just generously offered up his own military service recognition pin. Brother Temby, would you please present the military service recognition to Brother Paul Funk I? How about a huge round of applause for our keynote speakers, Brother Paul Funk I and Paul Funk II.